Hey guys, Michael Califf, author of A Very Broken System, doing his level best to try and make Australia and the world a better place. Now, one thing that I stumbled across in the last decade of getting harassed in Victoria, being system enemy number one, aside the level of corruption in Victoria, I got exposed to the level of hypocrisy that lives inside what we'll just sum up quickly as Elon Musk's woke mind virus. So in that, what I met a lot were people who had jumped the job queues through DEI, and basically they were in the right place at the right time, clinging to the right minority group, a decade or so ago. And then what happened was they hung around. When they introduced Ravenhall Correctional, for example, I called it the Ravenhall effect. And unfortunately I would never, unless I went through what I went through, I would never not bothered doing this. I would not have known the true extent of our problems to warrant doing what I'm doing now. So anyway, we get to Ravenhall. Now you got to remember there's laws in all this. And they're big, serious laws. And it just indicates, so if you can't adhere to one law, then there's a chance you're not going to adhere to the laws all the way through until we're seeing corruption at the highest level in CFMEU sites, for example. So this bit where, it should be right, it's okay, it's just inmates, that doesn't cut it in a bad way, because it costs people their lives and the public money. So that, just put that over there. That's not even a thing. So Ravenhall gets opened and they're sprouting off about having more cameras than inmates and this, and all the screws, the prison officers who were just literally just done a 6-week job and thrown under the bus, which is why you were hearing figures. I mean, if you Google Ravenhall Correctional, you'll see it's subject to a lot of inquiries, and had 70 officers left within the first 3 months. People have escaped from there by just literally walking out the front gate. This was meant to be Daniel Andrews' jewel that was going to prevent women from dying. And anyway, what happened, aside from Ravenhall Correctional producing the prison officer who got himself in some criminal and IBAC strife, which led to me being asked to testify and, system enemy number one, and getting harassed, and, they were throwing all manner of resources at me because I dared question them. Anyway, in that, when they opened Ravenhall, they were sprouting off about how it's the technical, this is a medium security programs jail, mind you, but it's the technical jewel of the correctional system, and rah, rah, rah. In effect, what it also had was it had completely untrained, like I'm talking, did a 6-week course and got offered a $4,000 sign-on bonus or whatever, they're now an $8,000 sign-on bonus because they couldn't manage So here we are. These type of people, no disrespect to the prison officers, the decent people, they're not trained though. They'll tell you themselves. They're just, they were just 6-week course, there you go. But what they were given in Ravenhall was the ability to press a button, and now they could listen in on conversations. I kid you not. But not only could they listen in on conversations, they did it it's illegal, by the way. It's illegal and completely immoral, unethical, for it says it in the surveillance guidelines in Victoria. You can't just have, like, a prison even cannot just have people like surveilling. The stenophone system in a prison is there for duty of care, so that when the place is locked down at night, should someone have a heart attack, they can go, hello, I think I'm dying. Okay, otherwise they would never, ever will your cell get open. There's no way, people would die. and jails would get sued because they couldn't provide a duty of care. So they have a thing called an intercom system. Well, that intercom system in Ravenhall, and now all prisons in Victoria, because they don't bother following laws, gets used, that stenophone system gets used for now just frontline, fresh off the street, 1 week in the job officers to press a button and have a listen to what's going on in cell 27. It's meant to be for that intel and whatnot is meant to be for the management and good order of the prison, which the fact you've got situations like George Marrogi famously running a massive drug, like he was supplying the whole of Melbourne, the northern suburbs of Melbourne, with meth from a prison cell. But here they have these laws being broken. So don't fall into like, oh yeah, but you know, they've got to do it for the goodness of the state. Nonsense. They do it, well, this is my point. This is why I'm here, because what it grew into is a toxicity. It grew into literally, there's no contraband. Nobody says, it just grew into literally gossip. So I would have young 23-year-old females and a drug counsellor coming up to me in the middle of the yard discussing what they had overheard me and another inmate discussing in our prison cell. There you go. Now that's the type of thing that led to me telling them to go and fornicate with themselves, because when I not only did that end up happening, I then ended up having those type of conversations told to me by my lawyer. So, and this is where the Ravenhall effect comes into it. So hang on a minute. Now you've got a very low-ranking, untrained prison officer speaking, like listening in and getting a snippet. You know, mum told you not to eavesdrop because you only ever get half the story, right? Particularly where a prison, there's a lot of bluff and bravado and nonsense being spoken, right? So you've got these untrained people listening in, coming up, what did you think he meant by that? Coming to the most ridiculous of ridiculous conclusions. But hang on, it gets worse. Then being able to influence the outcome in court. I kid you not. And they're selling it as, oh, this is like the prisons, you know, we're going to have the best reintegration program and we'll end up with like really great, you know, recidivist rates will be low, and therefore we'll have, and have a look at us now. Have a look at us now. We've never been worse. So their criminality, they're breaking the laws, no allegedlys. Any lower ranked prison officer will attest to that's a fact. You can see them sitting there. Clearly somebody had forgot to tell them, the GEO staff, that, hey, better check the, have you checked the surveillance laws? Are we actually allowed to do this? Literally. And that is how we've got to the innocent life costing, record crime stat producing state that we're in the state of Victoria. Stay tuned, guys. I got plenty more. In fact, I might go and make a nice long-winded one now before I go back to finish my last term of TAFE. Speak soon, guys.